There's a lot people say about silver, but not much about how the market actually works. So here's the good, the bad, and the practical rules you need to know before you consider buying some. Let's start with the good, the part that draws most people to silver in the first place. One of the biggest advantages of physical silver is how simple it is. You hold it, you own it. There's no account, no custodian, no platform in the middle. It's one of the few assets today that's still a true bearer instrument. Whoever holds it is the owner. That matters because almost everything else you own requires permission. Banks approve transfers, brokerages release withdrawals, crypto exchanges process transactions, and sometimes freeze them. Even stablecoins can be locked by the issuer. Physical silver doesn't work like that. It's permissionless in the most literal sense. No one can stop you from accessing it, storing it, or handing it to someone else. There's no approval process and no gatekeeper. And because of that, physical silver has zero counterparty risk. Most modern assets depend on someone else fulfilling their obligation: a bank honoring a withdrawal, a brokerage safeguarding your shares, a crypto exchange staying solvent. That's counterparty risk, the risk that the other side can't or won't fulfill their financial or contractual obligations. With physical silver, there is no other side. No intermediary who can default, mismanage, or deny access. There's also a custody angle here. When you hold physical silver, you are the custodian. You're taking direct control of a small part of your own wealth without outsourcing it to a financial institution. And in that way, physical silver functions as a form of self-contained security. If a bank freezes, if a brokerage glitches, if a crypto exchange goes down, your silver is unaffected. It just sits there, quietly being silver. That's the good. It's tangible, private, permissionless, and completely under your control. Owning silver is simple. Buying it is where things get complicated. Imagine this. You're walking down the street. You check your phone, and silver is trading at $92 Canadian per ounce. Spot price. The number everyone sees. You walk into your local coin shop. You ask for a silver maple leaf. The dealer says, "Sure, that'll be $120. A little steep, but fine. You buy it. You step outside, look at the coin, and think, "Actually, no. This is too much. I don't want it." So you walk right back in and say, "Hey, can I get a refund?" The dealer points to the receipt. All sales are final. You missed that part. All right, fine. You say, "Okay then, buy it back from me." The dealer looks at the coin, still sealed, still untouched, and says, "I can give you $95. $95 for the same coin you just paid $120 for. A coin you've owned for, what, 30 seconds? What just happened? How can the same ounce of silver be worth $120 one minute and $95 the next? You didn't damage it. You didn't scratch it. You didn't even take it out of the packaging. To understand what just happened, you have to see silver from the dealer's point of view, and that means zooming out to the supply chain. Because that maple leaf didn't come straight out of the ground and into your hand. Silver starts at a mine. It's extracted, refined, minted into a coin, packaged, insured, and moved through wholesalers before it ever reaches a dealer's shelf. Every step in that chain costs money. That's the premium. Everything it took for silver in the ground to become the finished product in your hand. And supply and demand shows up here too. When demand spikes or supply tightens, premiums rise across the entire production chain. That's upstream pressure, and it affects what you pay going in. So when you see silver trading at $92 on your phone, that's the spot price, the price for a 1,000-ounce bar sitting in a vault somewhere. Spot is the wholesale price of raw silver in bulk. Retail silver is a finished product, and finished products always cost more than raw materials. Now, here's the part most people miss. Dealers aren't stackers. They're not betting on silver going up. They're not hoarding coins in the back room. Dealers are in the volume game. Their business only works if they move metal quickly, at predictable margins, without taking price risk. Every coin that comes in is hedged. Every coin that goes out is hedged. And hedging just means the dealer locks in the price immediately, so they're not taking a gamble on where the silver price goes next. They can't afford to wait. Silver can move dollars in minutes. A dealer who takes price risk is a dealer who goes out of business. So when you bought that maple leaf for $120, the dealer instantly locked in his position. He hedged it. He recorded it. He moved on. If he gave you a refund, he'd have to unwind all of that, reverse the inventory, reverse the hedge, reverse the paperwork. And worse, it would set a precedent. Anyone could walk in, buy silver, watch the price move $1, and demand a refund. The dealer would take all the risk, and the customer would take none. A refund would turn the dealer into a speculator. And the moment a dealer becomes a speculator, he's finished. And that buyback price, $95, that's the spread. The difference between what a dealer sells for and what a dealer buys for. It's not personal. It's structural. Premiums reflect the cost of producing and distributing the silver. The spread reflects the cost of running a retail business and the risks dealers take on. Premiums affect what you pay going in. The spread affects what you get coming out. The spread covers overhead, hedging costs, inventory risk, counterfeit risk, regulatory compliance, and local supply and demand, the downstream pressures of the retail market. Once you understand the supply chain, the overhead, the hedging, and the business model, the whole retail silver world starts to make sense. But understanding the dealer's world also reveals something most buyers never realize until it's too late. Now that you understand premiums and spreads, you know why that maple leaf cost $120 and why the dealer would only buy it back for $95. But understanding it doesn't make it hurt any less. Because here's the reality. When you buy physical silver, you start underwater. You're paying retail for something the dealer values at wholesale. In simple terms, you're paying $120 for $95 worth of metal, and you're hoping the price eventually rises enough to close that gap. And that gap isn't small. Spot might be $92, but you're paying a premium on top of that. And when you sell, you're not getting spot. You're getting spot minus the dealer's buyback spread. So silver has to rise $10, $20, sometimes $30 an ounce before you even break even. Not to make a profit, just to get back to zero. That's not a scam. That's not the dealer ripping you off. That's just how the retail silver market works. But it does mean this. With physical silver, you lose money the moment you buy it. That's built into the system. And that's just the financial side. The physical reality comes with its own challenges. The next thing you discover is that silver is bulky and heavy, painfully heavy. On paper, an ounce of silver looks small. In your hand, it still looks small. But once you start stacking real weight, the physical reality hits you. $10,000 of silver weighs around 30 pounds. $50,000 weighs about 150 pounds. That's the weight of a grown adult, sitting in your closet. And this is where silver is very different from gold. $10,000 of gold fits in your pocket. $10,000 of silver needs a backpack, and a strong back. The more silver you own, the more inconvenient it becomes. It takes up space. It's awkward to move. It's loud. It's dense. And it's not something you casually carry around. And all of that weight leads directly to the next problem: storage. Once you realize how heavy silver is, the next problem becomes obvious. Where do you put it? Because you can't store tens of thousands of dollars of silver in a desk drawer. And you definitely can't trust a little hotel-style safe you bought on sale. Real storage, the kind that actually protects your metal, is expensive. A proper burglary-rated safe, the kind that weighs hundreds of pounds and can resist power tools, starts in the thousands. A TL30 safe can cost $5,000 to $10,000. The higher-end models go well beyond that. And that's before installation. A safe like this has to be bolted into concrete. That means hiring a professional, cutting into flooring, anchoring the safe, and making sure it can't simply be carried out the door. Installation alone can cost hundreds of dollars. And here's the part nobody tells you. This isn't even an option for everyone. If you live in an apartment, a condo, or you're renting, you often can't bolt a safe into the floor. You can't cut into concrete. You can't modify the structure. So proper storage becomes a homeowner's game. Now, if you only have a few coins or a couple of small bars, you don't need a vault. A simple lockbox is fine. But as your stack grows, as the weight and the value start to climb, a real safe stops being optional. It becomes part of the cost of owning physical silver. So the reality is simple. When you buy silver, you're not just buying metal. You're buying the space, the safe, the installation, and the responsibility that comes with storing it. But storage is only half the physical reality. The metal itself comes with its own set of problems. A lot of people say, "I like silver because I can hold it. I trust what I can touch." It sounds empowering, until you learn that touching silver is one of the worst things you can do to it. Silver is soft, much softer than people expect. And because it's soft, it's fragile. And because it's fragile, it becomes high maintenance. It scratches, dents, and picks up rim dings with almost no effort. Slide a coin across a table, and you'll leave a mark. Drop it once, and the edge is permanently flattened. And then there are fingerprints. The oils from your skin can etch into the surface over time. Cooking in the house releases sulfur compounds that accelerate tarnish. Even normal household humidity carries enough sulfides to darken silver in weeks. Unlike gold, silver reacts with almost everything around it. Temperature swings, moisture, and airborne contaminants all interact with the metal. Leave silver exposed, and it will tone, spot, or tarnish. Leave it exposed long enough, and it can turn completely black. Fire will melt it. Flooding will destroy the packaging. And once the packaging is damaged, the resale value drops. This is why capsules, tubes, airtight containers, desiccants, and sealed storage stop being optional. They become part of the routine and part of the cost. Before long, storing silver becomes its own system, something you have to manage, maintain, and protect. And here's the irony. The more you value your silver, the less you can actually touch it. Investment-grade silver is meant to be stored, not handled. The romantic idea of holding your wealth becomes the practical reality of sealing it away and never touching it again. But the physical maintenance is only half the story. The psychological side is its own challenge. The next thing nobody tells you is that owning physical silver changes the way you think. Security stops being a task and becomes a lifestyle. It starts with privacy. You begin to wonder how many people know you have silver. The delivery driver who dropped off that heavy box. The contractor who installed your safe. The employee at the coin shop who saw what you bought. Every person who knows becomes part of the chain, and you can't untell any of them. Then the hypervigilance sets in. You start closing the blinds more often. You double-check the locks at night. You think twice before mentioning silver to anyone. You start looking at your home layout differently. What's visible? What's accessible? What's vulnerable? Vacations stop feeling relaxing. You hesitate to leave for too long. And when you do leave, you check your cameras from the hotel room. You worry about storms, break-ins, power outages, or whether someone noticed you were gone. And slowly, security becomes an arms race. Cameras, motion sensors, reinforced doors, alarms, window locks, privacy blinds. Not because you planned to buy any of it, but because storing wealth at home makes you think differently. And here's the part most people never consider. You can't outsource this. There's no bank vault, no insurance desk, no fraud department, no customer service line. When you store physical silver at home, you are the security system. For some people, this becomes a source of genuine anxiety. Not paranoia, just the natural weight of knowing that your wealth is sitting in your house, and you are the only one responsible for protecting it. And even if you manage the security side, there's another surprise waiting. Selling silver isn't as simple as people think. Another thing people assume is that silver is liquid, that if the price spikes, you can just sell instantly and lock in the gains. But physical silver doesn't work like that. You can't unload $20,000 of metal with a click. You have to drive to a dealer, wait in line, get your silver tested, and accept whatever buyback price they're offering that day. And here's the part that surprises people. During price spikes, dealers often lower their buyback prices. Not because they're trying to rip you off, but because they're protecting themselves. When spot shoots up, it can fall just as fast. If a dealer buys from you at the top and the price collapses an hour later, they take the loss. So they widen the spread, lower the buyback, and hedge the risk. So while you're excited watching the chart go vertical, the dealer is cautious. Your excitement gets deflated the moment you hear their offer. And even in calm markets, liquidity isn't instant. You need time, transportation, verification, and a dealer willing to buy the amount you're selling. It's not like selling a stock or crypto. Physical silver moves at the speed of real life. But slow liquidity is only the beginning. Dealers also have to verify every piece you bring in. Another thing people underestimate is verification. Dealers can only buy what they can verify quickly, confidently, and without taking on risk. And anything that slows that process down becomes a problem. Exotic silver is the biggest headache. Odd shapes, poured art bars, statues, unusual weights. They look impressive, but dealers hate them. They can't test them quickly. They can't compare them to a known standard. So they either refuse them outright or offer melt value. But even normal silver can cause issues. If a bar doesn't match a standard weight, if it's from a brand the dealer doesn't recognize, or if it looks even slightly unusual, the dealer has to slow down and verify it. Most coin shops don't have advanced testing equipment. They have basic tools, scales, magnets, calipers, maybe an ultrasonic tester if you're lucky. If they can't verify your silver on the spot, they'll send it to a refiner. And that's where the delays begin. You lose any premium you paid. You wait days or weeks for the refiner to confirm purity, and you get whatever melt value is offered at the end. So the reality is simple. Unless your silver is standard, recognizable, and easy to test, verification becomes a bottleneck. And bottlenecks cost time, money, and momentum. Which brings us to the practical part, the rules that help you avoid all of these headaches. Now that we've covered the realities of physical silver, here are some practical tips to help you avoid the traps, get the most silver for your money, and make your stack easier to sell later. One thing to understand before we get into the tips is that silver isn't one size fits all. The cheapest option, the most efficient option, and the easiest to sell option can be 3 different things. And the first rule is simple. First, avoid the cool designs. The colored coins, the limited editions, the special releases, the collectibles, the proof coins, the movie-themed rounds, Godzilla, 007, Star Wars, Marvel, all of it. They look rare, but the scarcity is manufactured, not real. And avoid silver jewelry as an investment. You're paying for design and craftsmanship, but dealers buy it back as scrap. Then there's graded bullion. You're not paying for metal, you're paying for a plastic case and the label. Dealers don't pay you for that. They pay you for the silver inside and nothing more. Graded bullion almost always sells for melt value. And finally, fractional silver. It looks affordable, but the premiums are huge. If you stacked only fractionals long-term, you'd leave a lot of money on the table. And avoid mystery boxes or grab bags. They're almost always filled with slow-moving inventory, odd weights, or high-premium items dealers can't sell individually. Once you avoid the high-premium stuff, the next step is choosing the right mints. For stacking, simplicity wins. Stick to well-known, instantly recognizable mints. Royal Canadian Mint, US Mint, Perth Mint, Asahi. These are easy to verify, easy to sell, and universally trusted. And once you've chosen the right mints, the next rule is about packaging. Whatever you buy, keep the packaging sealed. Don't open assay cards. Don't break tamper-evident seals. Don't remove bars from their original plastic. The packaging is part of the verification. Break it, and the dealer has to treat your silver as raw metal, which means lower buyback prices. Packaging affects verification, and verification affects liquidity. For your liquid stack, the silver you want to be able to sell quickly, stick to common rounds and coins. Buffalo rounds, maple leafs, American eagles. These move fast because dealers know exactly what they are. For long-term stacking, larger bars make sense. 10-ounce bars, kilo bars. They carry lower premiums and are easier to store. Smaller pieces are more liquid. Bigger pieces are more efficient. But liquidity isn't just about size. It's also about standardization. Avoid odd shapes, odd weights, and odd purities. Odd weights, odd shapes, poured art pieces, all of these slow down verification. And anything that slows down verification lowers your resale value. Stick to 0.999 or 0.9999 silver in standard weights. Everything else adds friction. And even if you buy the right products, you still need to buy from the right people. If a dealer spends more time selling you a lifestyle than selling you metal, walk away. You've seen the type. Slick ads, exotic pieces, dramatic lighting, luxury branding, and limited drops designed to trigger FOMO. And it's not just the Instagram-style brands. There are the big marketing companies, too, the ones advertising on talk radio, podcasts, YouTube, and political shows. They push starter kits, investment-grade silver, graded bullion, rare coins, and overpriced sets. These dealers specialize in emotion, not value. Their products look exclusive, but the premiums are enormous, and dealers buy them back at melt. And speaking of buying, here's where online dealers come in. Something to consider is shopping online. Physical coin shops have real overhead: rent, staff, insurance, security, and inventory costs. Online dealers don't have the same expenses, so their prices are often lower. You can compare multiple websites in seconds, see live pricing, and shop around without pressure. This doesn't mean you should never buy locally. Local shops are great for selling, for small purchases, and for building relationships. But for stacking, online dealers often give you more silver for your dollar. And before you buy anything, anywhere, check the buyback price. Before you buy anything, check what your local dealer pays to buy it back. If the spread is huge, skip it. This one step alone saves people thousands. And while you're checking buyback prices, you also need to think about where you're buying from. Avoid buying from strangers on social media, classifieds, or marketplaces. Counterfeits are everywhere, and if the seller can disappear after the sale, the risk is on you. And speaking of risk, collector bars come with their own kind of trap. Don't chase rare bars or old brands. Johnson Matthey, Engelhardt, Vintage Pours. They're great bars, but they're collector items now. Collectors pay premiums for them, but dealers usually don't. If you're not a collector, don't pay collector premiums. You'll almost always get melt value on the way out. But even if you buy the right products, timing matters just as much. When spot jumps, premiums explode, inventory dries up, and spreads widen. If everyone is rushing to buy silver, that's usually the worst time to buy silver. And once you understand how hype affects premiums, the next rule becomes obvious. Premiums are not part of your return, they're part of your cost. The less you pay in premiums, the more silver you actually own. Put all of these together, and silver stacking becomes a lot simpler. Silver stacking can be simple, if you avoid the traps. Stick to recognizable products, avoid the fancy stuff, keep everything sealed, and buy from reputable sources. Do that, and you'll avoid most of the headaches we've talked about. And that's where the psychology of silver really shows up. Silver stacking has a certain romance to it. The shine, the weight, the history. It feels powerful. And the online ecosystem around silver only amplifies that feeling. It's exciting. It's dramatic. It's emotional. Because the feeling of silver is one thing, the reality is something else entirely. The reality is quieter, more practical, more complicated, and sometimes more inconvenient than people expect. And that's why this video exists. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. The goal of this video isn't to discourage you from stacking. It's to make sure you don't learn these lessons the hard way, the way so many people do. They get excited, they FOMO into the first silver they can find, and only later discover the premiums, the verification issues, the storage problems, the liquidity friction, and the security responsibilities. Because once you understand the trade-offs, silver becomes much easier to place in a real plan. Silver can absolutely be part of a smart, long-term plan. But it's not magic, it's not a shortcut, and it's not the fantasy some corners of the internet make it out to be. And that brings us back to the core idea behind silver stacking. You wanted to be your own bank. This is what it actually entails. Because being your own bank isn't a slogan, it's a responsibility. If you want the fantasy, there are plenty of hype channels for that. If you want the truth, welcome to reality. Silver isn't a dream, it's a responsibility. And when you treat it that way, it becomes a tool, not a trap.